Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to lesson 13. Today we cover a very interesting feature of the Arabic language that not many other languages share, and that is the dual. So it turns out in Arabic, you use different words if you're talking about one person, singular, or two people, dual, or more than two people, plural. So far in this course, we've only looked at singular versus plural because they are the most common forms of words in Arabic and in the Quran. But we do occasionally find the dual in the Quran, and so we will cover it because we'd like to cover all of the grammar to understand the Quran in this course. So what we'll do is we'll go back and review all of the different tables that we've seen in this course, nouns, pronouns, verbs, and we'll see how the dual fits into those tables. So let's get started. So if you'll remember, all the way back in lesson 2, we covered plurals. So there are different plurals depending on if the word is masculine or feminine. And similarly, there are different duals depending on if the noun is masculine or feminine. So let's take an example. So we have the word muslimun, which means a Muslim man. And we know that the plural of that is muslimun, if it's in the marfu' case. And if it's in the mansub or majroor case, the plural is different. It's muslimin instead of muslimun. Well, what about the dual? Now the dual in the marfu' case is musliman. Musliman. This ani sound is indicative of dual. We'll see this again later. And if it's in the mansub or majroor case, it's ain, muslimain. That's the suffix I add to the word. This is true for other words as well. Kafiran, two disbelievers. Kafirain, again, two disbelievers in the mansub or majroor case. Alright, what about if it's a feminine word? So the singular word is muslimatun. The dual word is muslimatan. Muslimatan in the marfu' case. Now this is very similar to what we saw before. So muslimun becomes musliman. Muslimatun becomes muslimatan. Again, we have the an ending, but this time the ta marbuta becomes a regular ta. Alright, what about if it's in the mansub or majroor case? Again, the an ending changes to an ain ending. So we have muslimatain. And then the plurals, as before, is muslimatun, muslimatin. Now pause the video and try it with a different noun. Take the word mu'minatun, for example, a believing woman. And try it also with mu'minun, a believing man, and see if you can generate the duals and plurals by adding the appropriate suffixes. Alright, let's move on to pronouns. So we've seen this chart before. So these are the pronouns in the marfu' case. So when the pronoun is a subject, and in Arabic, it's an independent word by itself. So huwa muslimun, he is a Muslim. So we've seen singulars, words, singular pronouns, and plural pronouns. What about duals? So the duals for the pronouns are not that difficult. If I want to say if I'm talking about two men, I use the word huma. Those two men, they, huma. Well, what about two Muslim women, or two women in general rather? Again, I just use huma. So if I'm saying those two are Muslim women, I would say huma muslimatan. Huma muslimatan. And so you see the same word. And if I'm talking about one man and one woman, I also use huma. Okay? So you'll see that it's huwa, huma, hum. So they all start with ha. It's kind of easy to remember that way. And the same word is used for the dual if it's masculine or feminine. What about second person? If I'm speaking directly to two people, I say antuma. Antuma. You two men, or you two women, or you two man and woman. Okay? So again, it fits into the pattern. It fits into the table. All of these pronouns start with ant. Anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna. And now you again have the oma sound, which is very characteristic of the dual. So now we have this complete table. I want you to practice this. Memorize this table. And you can memorize the pronouns on your own. Just huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antum, antunna, ana, nahnu. You can practice saying these again and again really fast, and that way you'll remember it. You can also start combining it with nouns so you can make full sentences. Huwa muslimun, huma musliman, hum muslimun, and so on. One thing I will point out that you may have noticed is that the word nahnu is used for both plural and dual. So if I'm speaking about a group of us, if I want to say we, it doesn't matter if it's two people or more than two people. I use nahnu. Okay, so we've also seen pronoun suffixes in the majrur and the mansub case. So we saw that, for example, if I want to say kitabuhu, his book, I just add the hu suffix. I've also seen the suffixes for plural, so let's see the suffixes for dual. For dual, it turns out that I use the same suffixes as I use the independent pronouns. So just like huma means those two men, or they, the huma suffix is used to mean their. So like their book, the book that belongs to those two men or those two women, I say kitabuhuma. And just like before, if the previous sound right before the suffix is an e sound, I change it to hima. So I can say fi hima, in them, in those two men. What about if I'm speaking directly to two people? Then I use the suffix kuma. Kuma. The two of your book, kitabukuma. And again, this is true if it's two men or two women, or a man and a woman. Okay? So again, go ahead and memorize this table. For this table in particular, it's best if you use another noun and try to attach it. So if I say something like qalamuhu, so take the word qalam and attach it to each of these suffixes so you understand how to use this in the majrur case. And then if you want to practice in the mansub case, you can just attach it to any verb. Take the verb daraba, to hit, and you can attach it to each of these suffixes. Darabahu, hit him. Darabahuma, hit the two of them, and so on. Okay. We'll move on to demonstrative words. So we saw this and these and that and those. So hadha, haula'i, hadhihi, haula'i. It turns out that these words also have a dual. So the words for the dual are hadani, hatani, if I'm referring to objects that are close to me. So these two books, hadani, kitabani. These two, let's say, tables, hatani, tawilatani, for the feminine word. Okay? So practice this as well. Just practice this table. Hadha, hadani, haula'i. Hadihi, hatani, haula'i. Now it turns out that the dual forms of these pronouns, these demonstrative words, are very rare. So they don't appear all the time, but you should know about them in case they do come up occasionally in the Quran. So similarly, if I'm referring to words that are far away, so dhalika is singular, dhanika is dual, ulaika is plural, tilka is singular feminine, tanika is dual feminine, and ulaika is plural feminine. And so they do follow patterns, right? You can take a look at this and you can see the patterns. This and these, well, for this, you just take hadha and add ani. We've seen this before. The ani sound is dual. Hadihi becomes hatani. And then for the dual, you have the dhal and the ta corresponding to the masculine and feminine, just like the singular forms. So this will help you remember it. But again, the only way to truly know it is to memorize these tables. Memorize these tables so you can say it to yourself without looking at them. Finally, we'll go on and we'll take a look at the verbs. So I know I'm showing you a lot of tables right now, but I'm hoping that most of these tables are a review, and the only new thing you have to memorize is the dual column in each table. So let's take a look at the verb kataba here. Kataba is singular. How do I say those two men wrote? I have to use the dual form kataba. Plural katabu. What about feminine? She wrote katabat. Those two women wrote katabata. Katabata. And then those women wrote katabna. You wrote, speaking to a man, katabta. You too wrote katabtuma. And that's true if I'm speaking to two men, two women, or a man and a woman. Katabtum, all of you wrote. Katabti, you woman wrote. Katabtuma, you two women wrote, or you two men, or you man and woman. Katabtunna, you women wrote. Katabtu, I wrote. Katabna, we wrote. Now this is super important. you have to know this complete table. So all 14 words, if you count them. And so I want you to practice this with another verb that I'm going to give you, akala, which means he ate. So go ahead and pause the video here and go and fill in the complete table. It's okay if you have to go back and refresh your table, but the point is before you go on, make sure that you know this complete table. Okay. One reminder I want to give you about subject-verb agreement. Remember, if the subject appears first, then it has to agree with the verb on the gender, the singular, dual, or plural, and person, meaning third person or second person or first person. So let's take a look at that. An example here. So we have akala minhuma. The two of them ate some of it. Now here, you don't actually see the subject. It's kind of implied. I'm talking about those two men. Okay? So akala, you can see here, is in the third person, dual form, masculine form. So it's those two men ate some of it. Okay, so the subject appeared previously, so that's why we don't see it. But you'll see that the form of the verb is that dual third person masculine form. Okay, or in this case, this form is also used if you have one man and one woman, which I think is the context of this ayah, Adam alayhi salam and Hawa. But if the verb appears first and then the subject appears after it, then the verb has to be in the singular form. Okay, so we saw this before. If you need a refresher, go back to our lesson on past tense verbs. But basically, if the verb appears first, then the subject, you actually always use the singular form of the verb. Okay, so qala rajulani. Those two men, or two men, said. And this is also true for plural. This isn't something new for dual. If I have, the Muslims said, I say qala muslimuna. Qala al-muslimuna. The Muslims said. Okay? So you say the verb. So when the verb appears at the beginning of a sentence, you don't know how many people you're talking about until you see the subject of the sentence. All right. We'll end there. So here's a few exercises. You don't see dual too often in the Quran, so there's not a lot of examples I can give you, but I can give you a few. So the first one is hadani sahirani. So sahir means magician. Hadani sahirani. What does that mean? These two are two magicians. Or these two are magicians. Okay? بلغ مجمع بينهما. بلغ مجمع بينهما. So majma'a means like the meeting point. Balagha means they reached. Or he reached if it's balagha. Balagha, the two of them reached a meeting point between them. So you'll see here we're also using the suffix, the dual suffix. Baina means between. بينهما, between them. خلقنا السماوات والأرض وما بينهما. So again we see بين showing up here. خلقنا, we created. السماوات, the heavens and the earth, and what is between them. And what is between them. So you'll notice that one little change here is that this is in the majroor case, because it turns out that this is the possessor of majma'a. We say the meeting point of the two of them. So this is the possessor, so it appears in the majroor case. This here is in the mansub case, because Allah created this, this, and this, and so it's in the majroor case. So we see bayna, and then we use the huma suffix. Baynahuma. Alright, I'll give you a few more exercises that you can practice on your own, and feel free to ask any questions in the comments. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for listening. Please do share this video or any of the other videos in this series with somebody else who can benefit, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.